Here he is. Come in. How are you?
Yeah, well,
Good.
nice venue.
There's John. I want to take you back, Frank, to start with, to the summer before last. We're in Moscow, working there. You get a job as the Derby manager, and you'd been kind of around, always talking, chatting, and suddenly you were walking around your phone a lot.
Yeah.
Life changed, didn't it, then, in terms of how different has it been being a manager to your life before that?
The year I had on the other side, working with yourself and others, I really enjoyed, actually. I really enjoyed it. It was something that always interested me. It was a great change of lifestyle from what had been a long playing career, and so I had a lovely balance at that point, and then I just went and ruined that balance in one swoop. Even though I played for 20 odd years or whatever, and been doing my coaching badges, the realisation when you take on something like that very quickly of the change in your life, the responsibility, the non-stop nature of it, was intense, and it hasn't stopped. And I now I've got it. I think I'd miss it if I didn't have it. But
was it a really difficult decision to go into it, or was it something that actually you really always wanted to do?
Yeah, I was quite aware. I mean, you would have joked with me. I remember Rio joking under Champions League final that I'm going to come back with grey hair, and he's right. It's coming very quickly.
What are the most difficult aspects of the job?
Finding the right balance for life, I would say.
Is that even possible now?
You need really good people around you, particularly a good wife, because they're the ones that really can take it. You know, like a loss, and your evening dinner can be slightly ruined, which is sometimes my fault because I should be able to let go.
Can you let go? Is it after a game, after a bad result?
I'm struggling at the moment.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is get a little bit more balance and more of a okay, we lost on Saturday for whatever the reasons will be. Maybe that night can be full of thoughts and hindsight and possible regret sometimes, but the next day has to be looking towards the future. And I say that I haven't mastered it yet. You know, Christine does so much for me at home. I mean, we've got a relatively young baby. She really is incredible like that. But I'm also trying to, play my part as on that side. I'm also trying to be a husband and be good at my job, even though you know it, and even though as a player I saw managers and saw and felt what I thought their responsibility was. Until you're in the seat, you don't know.
What's the difference in emotion after a game, whether it's winning or losing, from being a player to a manager?
Yeah, I think I find them both higher. I think that the wins are better. The only thing you miss is that moment of a goal, that personal, individual moment of a goal that helps the team win. And I have slightly, not loads, but that's a moment that never comes back. You retire, that's it. When you win, and the responsibility that you take on, and your staff even, and from the Monday and right through the week, how you prepared and how you selected the team, I think it trumps it. Having said that, when you lose, it's much worse than being a player.
Do you think being the player that you were, having the career that you had, helps you in management?
Yes, I think it does. I think it does because the experiences that I had, and I was fortunate to have them, not just winning things but losing things, because you have to have that perspective on everything. Every day at the minute I hear on the radio there's a lot of managers that are getting sacked, and who's going to be the next manager. And should it be someone who's had a good career, who's fresh to the game? I mean, it's a little bit on, trend at the minute. I know Steven Gerrard's doing it so well up at Rangers. Himself, Freddie Ljungberg in the Arsenal hot seat as an interim manager. And
also, I suppose, when you go immediately into the dressing room, there must be some degree of respect from players for what you've done. So it buys you a little bit of time with the players. Obviously, never that much time, because ultimately they'll make a judgment.
Yeah, I think there is that.
Yeah.
And I think I felt that more at Derby. It was a very British dressing room. So I guess a lot of the players had seen quite closely my career. So I agree with you. I think it can only last as long as you do your job well, and they feel it's how you build relationships with all of them. I made lots of mistakes in the beginning. My first meeting was a mistake because I told them I had an open door policy. And then they all wanted to come into my door and ask why they weren't playing. It was like, I can't speak to all 10 of you every week who aren't playing.
It was one of those things, perhaps when you were a player, you thought, like, the times you want to go in and I want to speak to the managers.
And, you know, I know the ones that didn't give me that feeling, and it was like, that's too cold. You know, and I felt that I was probably trying to swing it the other way. And they were really good lads. I can't complain about the year. It was brilliant there, but it was just a great, very quick learning curve. The Chelsea group is completely different. The dressing room is completely different culturally.
And no open door policy anymore.
It's
it's a jar.
I didn't. It's a jar. It's perfect. I didn't declare that, you know, and I think it's important that they know they can talk to you, and maybe the open door is more words on the training ground, on the pitch, here and there, just so you're constantly got a relationship with the players. But they can't always be nice. They can't always be good. I recognised that quite quickly. That was one thing I learnt quickly, was that as a player, I hated being subbed, I hated being dropped. I was terrible at it, and I look back now and I go, wow, I would have been really tough to manage at different parts of my career. And that's one of the biggest challenges I felt, because I expected players to be really disappointed, some are not so much, and then you learn about them.
Yeah, was it one of the hardest things, keeping everyone happy in a squad when you've got so much competition for places? Because obviously a lot of young players have come in and you've kept out really experienced, well-known names.
I'm constantly trying to think about that and strive to get the right feeling within the group, because especially if those players are training well, you're looking for opportunities for them. If you try and be, you know, best friends to everyone and keep all the squad happy, I think you end up in somewhat of a middle ground where maybe you're actually not keeping that many happy, and you're compromising what you want to do.
First impressions are always important. What's the difference between the first day at Derby and the first day at Chelsea?
Well, the first day at Derby is more of a blur to me because of how quickly it came, and because it was my first job. And I can say it now, 18 months later, like, I was somewhat nervous driving in and thinking, big time.
More nervous than perhaps any game you've ever played in?
I would say so. Yeah. I would say so, because all of a sudden it makes you realise that I wish I'd, you know, really focused on every little bit that every manager did during my career, every meeting, everything, you know, because you don't. I took lots from a lot of the managers I work with, but sometimes when it's actually go, right, now it's me, now I've got to arrange a meeting, I've got to sort the schedule out, I've got to be asked probably 50 questions today that I need to answer, and you must get to that quickly, because indecision or the feeling that you don't know what you're doing quite in a certain way is probably going to get you pretty quickly.
But is it okay to admit that you're going to be slightly vulnerable in a difficult start? Yeah,
I think it is, and I think people don't mind seeing that. I had no ego to be a dictator and try and pretend I knew everything. There are all moments, I think everybody does it in a job, I believe, where you actually, inside you are really struggling with something, but you put the face on and go, yeah, I know, of course I know what I'm doing. Of course this is all going well. Inside you're not so sure. And I'm learning new things now at Chelsea. I'm learning about the pressure and expectation being a lot more. So I think you have a responsibility to be very open and very straight about what you've seen and where you want the club to go.
Must be quite a fine line between being openly critical of your players, and because we all know players don't like to be criticised publicly. So it's about getting that balance right as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, the only time in my view that you go down that route is if you feel something which is really sort of bad professionalism or a lack of effort or something like that. And if I saw that genuinely in a team, I would have no problem calling that out. I'm certainly not one to judge, and because I was that younger player sometimes. I made mistakes in my career, and I think it's important that you do that. But I wouldn't be one to be critical for the sake of a misplaced pass or a back pass or a missed penalty, because I think those are all parts of the game.
You have worked for a number of managers. You mentioned it earlier about picking different things. You wish you'd listened to every meeting that they'd ever said. What parts have you taken from the various managers?
In terms of Jose Mourinho, the detail that he first brought to Chelsea was so forward-thinking. Every training session had an immense detail and was planned and structured, so you'd know exactly what you're doing from the start. He would give you reasons for what was happening. It was like a cone fest of everything that was happening and all that, and you kind of, as a player, always worry then, this looks a bit detailed, not just have a fun side. But it was that, and it was probably more structured towards the weekend. You know, Stoke away, okay, we're going to deal with long balls, we're going to deal with long throws, and that sounds really basic, but there was always an idea. With a Carlo Ancelotti or Gus Hiddink, who I really kind of felt close to as managers, they had a very human touch to them in man management and their style. But I certainly remember how their personal relationships were with the players and with the group, and that was something that I always thought. So, can you get that right? Can you get the detail and the tactics? Can you then get that touch with your players?
You don't have to name any names, but what things in the managers have you seen that you definitely wouldn't want to take into your management.
You get the flip of the Ancelotti and the Gus Hiddink, where you feel like you have no relationship with the manager. It just wouldn't be the way I am. And so the biggest thing when it comes down to it is that you have to be real to what you are. The first thing that a player will see is someone trying to be something they're not. We're in a business end here, we have to try and win stuff. So I think just trying to be who you are is probably the first one. I'd rather fail as me than try and be the next Jose Mourinho, whoever it may be.